Okay, well, hello. Sorry for the delay. Had a few equipment things to sort out because moving things around between my desk and the kitchen apparently not the brightest thing in the world. Anyway, we're working on that. So, hopefully, I can find my mouse cursor and I can find where chat is. Oh, hi, Magpie! Hi! Always nice to see you. I hope you're doing well. And so I've been messing around a little bit with OBS settings and trying to set up Touch Portal to use with this as well. Oh, and hi, Shard. Hi, welcome. Thank you for dropping by. Again, hope you are doing well as well. Also, on this lovely, God, what day is it? Tuesday evening, I think. Yeah, it should be Tuesday. Yeah. Anyway, the day that I'm supposed to stream and I'm horribly late at. So, yes, welcome. Let's see. After un- disassembling everything from the kitchen, from Sunday's streams, so maybe a little bit chaotic, maybe a little bit quirky tonight. My OBS settings, I'm tweaking it around a little bit so that hopefully I will actually have chat on screen as well. It's not the fanciest. It's not. Um, oh, okay, good. It is Tuesday. Good. And sleepy, but okay. Yeah, I kind of fell asleep after work. After I got off work at 4:30, and just woke up about 15 minutes ago. So whoops. But I feel you there, definitely. So anyway, the layout is going to be a little bit different. It's not exactly where I want it to be, but it's hopefully at least a little better maybe with the chat on it. I don't know. Game window is smaller and I will just shut up about it and show you. I'm going to and okay. Can you hear me now? Yes. Sorry. I know you won't be able to see me because my camera is wonky. Oh, oh, it's tripping over issues. I'm so sorry. Yeah. Okay. You can hear me. Cannot. I'm assuming you cannot see me. Okay. So that is good to know then. But if I can, okay, why? If I can't actually get to USB live camera, it's not picking up my camera at all. But I am so sorry, Magpie, about the. Well, you may not be able to hear me if you're muted, but I am so sorry that it was triggering tripping your issues. I had no idea that it was going on like that, but I can only get my. Okay. This is the only camera that I can get working. And the actual proper one is not. I don't think so because it was unplugged and I just plugged it back in. It had been in the oh god, I've got hair again. It had been in the kitchen. Black screen, but audio is good. Okay, is theoretically I should have. You can see. Okay, good. Looping. Yeah, this is my built-in camera, so I can actually get that to work. But it's not. Well, okay. Let's try something. Duplicate. Talking head 2. And we're going to go into studio mode. And this is just sort of a quick and dirty fix so that we can actually do a attempted a fix. Let's see. Window capture. Add existing. Oh, okay. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, sorry. There's often quite an asynchronous lag, which is incredibly annoying. And let's see, are we actually we do that? Nope. Window capture there. Okay. So I think I may be able to get this to work. Kind of. It just means that I will be doing things in a way I was not expecting to do them, and video quality for my camera is going to be slightly crap. And need to do an audio source capture, audio output, and we need God, I think it's desktop audio, or possibly Garand audio. I'm not sure which, because OBS likes to make my life supremely difficult. Right. What else do I need? Okay. I do on the fly as the streamer. Like, yeah, it's not my preferred way, and I'm probably going to try moving the microphone over a bit. And what else do I need? Ah, yes, chat capture, which is, what is it called? It's a no, I can't remember. Browser, add existing chat. Oh, good, and it's white now. Thank you. I don't want it to be white. Fine. I don't care anymore. We're just going to put that there and pretend that it's pretty. Okay, that's about the best I can do, I think. Is that going to be tolerable? Well, no, you can't see it, can you? Because I am in studio mode. Okay, so we know it's something to do with the game, which means, okay, it can't be a problem with I show you, because that's what I'm using now as well as to capture the game. One other thing to try, and then I will either I'm not interested enough to, or interesting enough to do an AMA, AMA, but I can, sorry. Okay, okay. Venus, honestly, I could. Actually, yeah. I've been thinking about uh, doing story times, so I would like to try to try one last thing, um, just to see if I can, let's see, if I can figure out the sound, um, and I'm going to try that. And you know what? Screw it. I'm I'm tired. It's been a long day. We're all tired. Nobody wants to sit here and watch me play with settings. I just oh hello. Okay, yeah. Mulsey is between my chair and the actual bookshelf. So yeah. And okay. I know that I have downloaded a a P.G. Woodhouse book that I had considered using for a storytime stream, but I have not read this particular one before, and it was from like 1916 or so, or possibly a little bit earlier. So who God only knows what um, God only knows what horrors might be going on in the background. Uh, yes, Tilly, I know. Thank you very much. One of the best learned traits one can hope to pass on to teach others. Yes, this is true, and yeah, I I want to stream just a little bit at least, but if I can find where my computer stashed the book, then stream. Otherwise, I will call it a defeat and probably just go hang my head in shame and sleep. It's probably under books. I yes, there it is. Love Among the Chickens by P.G. Woodhouse. Um, I have, like I said, I have not really read much in this. Why are we not going back? Oh, for Christ's sake. Okay, there we go. Um, okay, I just, you know, I'm sorry, the desktop or the laptop built in camera is really very annoying, and I don't like the low quality. But hey, if it's the only thing that's working at the moment, and if you're all okay with this, just let me change the. Hello, where is Chrome? Where did you go? Hello. I was going to change the stream title, but Chrome is pretending that it doesn't know me. Seriously. Okay. There we go. Okay. Edit stream title. Um Stream title. Things are going too well for Ari, and I'm deeply suspicious. Yes, it wasn't Ari who got smacked down, but me. Fabulous. I know, I was looking so forward to seeing him again. Oh. The first time you heard me say F and then continue to a few times while streaming was like, Tristan would love this. mention that Tristan does that. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm laughing and making the laptop move because I have to use that keyboard and not this one because it's just screwed up. Yes. So sorry. Um, yes. No. Oh no. I'd never get mad at Anil. No. No. Anyone who gets mad at Anil, no, they're bad. So, but you know, yeah. Okay. Yeah, sometimes streaming is just like that. I know. It's just, it shouldn't be. Okay. Story time. Sorry, there may be some camera shaking here because typing on the keyboard. You say that, Lupa, but it's easier said than done. PG Wodehouse. And sorry about the camera shaking. Okay, and I know for sure that this, let's see, would this be just chatting? Books? Is there a bookshelf? What category should this be? I should have looked on some of Sasha's streams, but I never pay attention to the category for the people that I actually like. Thank you, Lupa. I'm just going to do just chatting, just for the hell of it. Sorry, Tristan. Yeah, just chatting on your birthday. Okay, good. Book, no tags for books. Reading aloud. Okay. And fair enough. Okay. Says stream info updated successfully. We will be just for convenience. I'm going to have the text on the big monitor that is actually working, which means that angles. Oh, and you can see some of the crap that I have stacked outside of the usual the usual camera angle. Oopsie. All right. Okay, so we will. Well, thank you. It's, you know, I try very hard to at least pretend that I have my life together, but not so much. Let's see if I can maybe get that a little bit better. Okay, that's okay. That angle is somewhat better. Yeah, well, Lupa, at least half the time you're at somebody else's house dog sitting, so and then you just put up the pillow for it, to protect their privacy. Folks that actually look like they have that together are probably way worse than the rest of us. This is, I'm not going to I'm not going to confirm or deny, but yes, I understand that thought. Okay, so this is Love Among the Chickens by P.G. Wodehouse. If you're not familiar with him, with his work, he is probably best known for either the Smith books, which are spelled P. Smith, but pronounced Smith, or Jeeves and Wooster. This is an early one that I got from Project Gutenberg, and it's called Love Among the Chickens. I have not read the... Yes, Tilly, thank you. I have not read this specific one because Wodehouse has... he wrote so many freaking books. Just tracking them down is very difficult. Tilly, Munchkin? Are you trying to kill me, sweetie? You're trying to kill me. Yes, you are. Okay. Tilly, sweetie, you need to knock it the fuck off, dear. Thank you. Oh, yes, you do. Yes. Okay. So sorry. Oh, thank you. Yes, that is my new desk chair. It's not good for wiggling, but it's much more comfortable than the ottoman that I was sitting on before. And yes, reading specifies aloud because that implies some streams of someone reading silently. Just video of page turning. I might watch that actually. I have been known to watch slow video, or I think it's Swedish or Norwegian or something along those lines, where they'll just like plunk a camera on the front of a train and record the entire train journey. It's actually very restful and very cozy. But yes, Tilly is very good at vexing her person. But potential, let's see, potential content warnings for this. I could be wrong, but since this was written, basically, let's see, when was this? Okay, doesn't say exactly when it was published, but it's an old book, so you might actually expect some period typical attitudes toward people who are not Anglo-Saxon white British men. The bookshelves do not need to be covered for Alien. Oh, okay, good. Thank you. I appreciate the opinion. That opinion, Shard. That's helpful because I wasn't sure. I was hoping that they might be dark enough to sort of fade into the background, but you never know. Cool. Okay, so basically, be on the lookout for early 20th century, very early 20th century attitudes. Yes, exactly. Period typical attitudes toward various groups of people who are not cishet white British men. Thank you. Yes. That is about the strongest content warning that I would expect from any PG Wodehouse book. I mean, it's going to be sexism, there may be casual racism, but it's not vicious, and it's all period typical. Okay. Love Among the Chickens, Chapter 1, a letter with a postscript. I'm not going to try to do character voices for this, by the way, because I would never be able to keep them straight. So just please bear with me. A gentleman called to see you when you were out last night, sir, said Mrs. Medley, my landlady, removing the last of the breakfast things. Yes, I said in my affable way. A gentleman, said Mrs. Medley meditatively, with a very powerful voice. Caruso, sir? I said, did he leave a name? Yes, sir, Mr. Uckridge. Oh, my sainted aunt. Sir? Oh, nothing. Thank you, sir, said Mrs. Medley, withdrawing from the presence. Uckridge. Oh, hang it. I had not met him for years, and glad as I am, as a general thing, to see the friends of my youth when they drop in for a chat. I doubted whether I was quite equal to Uckridge at the moment. A stout fellow in both the physical and moral senses of the words. He was a trifle too jumpy for a man of my cloistered and intellectual life, especially as, just now, I was trying to plan out a new novel, a tricky job, demanding complete quiet and seclusion. It had always been my experience that when Uckridge was around, things began to happen swiftly and violently, rendering meditation impossible. Uckridge was the sort of man who asks you out to dinner, borrows the money from you to pay the bill, and winds up the evening by embroiling you in a fight with the cabman. I've gone to Covent Garden balls with Uckridge, and found myself lugging it down Henrietta Street in the grey dawn, pursued by infuriated costermongers. I wondered how he'd got my address, and on that problem, light was immediately cast by Mrs. Medley, who returned, bearing an envelope. It came by the morning post, sir, but it was left at number 20 by mistake. Oh, thank you. Thank you, sir, said Mrs. Medley. I recognized the handwriting. The letter, which bore a Devonshire postmark, was from an artist friend of mine, one Lickford, who was at present on a sketching tour in the West. I'd seen him off at Waterloo a week before, and I remember that I'd walked away from the station wishing that I could summon up the energy to pack and get off to the country somewhere. I hate London in July. The letter was a long one, but it was the postscript which interested me most. By the way, I may be mispronouncing this, at Yeovil? Yeovil? I'm going to pronounce it Yeovil. By the way, at Yeovil, I ran into an old friend of ours, Stanley Featherstone Uckridge, of all people. As large as life, quite 6'2", and tremendously filled out. I had thought he was abroad. The last I heard of him was that he had started for Buenos Aires in a cattle ship, with a borrowed pipe by way of luggage. Seems he has been in England for some time. I met him in the refreshment room at Yeovil Station. He was waiting for a down train, and he had changed on his way to town. As I opened the door, I heard a huge voice entreating the lady behind the bar to put it in her pewter. And there was SFU in a villainous old suit of grey flannels. Swear it was the one he had on last time I saw him, with pince nez tacked onto his ears, with ginger beer wire as usual, and a couple inches of bare neck showing between the bottom of his collar and the top of his coat. You remember how he could never get a stud to do its work. He also wore a mackintosh. It was a blazing day. Oh, thank you. That's so sweet of you all to say. I hope I hope it's okay. And my inevitable mispronunciations and stumbling over words are not too bad. Thank you. Okay. He greeted me with effusive shouts. Wouldn't hear of my standing the racket. Insisted on being host. When we had finished, he fumbled in his pockets, looked pained and surprised, and drew me aside. "Look here, lucky old horse," he said. "You know I never borrow money. It's against my principles, but I must have a couple of bob. Can you, my dear fellow, oblige me with a couple of bob till next Tuesday? Tell you what I'll do," in a voice full of emotion. "I'll let you have this," producing a beastly little threepenny bit with a hole in it, which he had probably picked up in the street, "until I can pay you back. This is of more value to me than I can well express, Lucky, my boy. Very, very dear friend gave it to me when we parted years ago. It's a wrench. Still, no, you must take it. You must take it. Licky, old man, shake hands, old horse. Shake hands, my boy." And then he then tottered to the bar, deeply moved, and paid up out of the 5 shillings which he had made it as an afterthought. He asked after you, and said you were one of the noblest men on earth. I gave him your address, not being able to get out of it, but if I were you, I should fly while there is yet time. Hydration break, 1 moment. Sorry. Okay. It seemed to me that the advice was good and should be followed. I needed a change of air. London may have suited Dr. Johnson, but in the summertime it is not for the ordinary man. What I wanted to enable me to give the public of my best, as the reviewer of a weekly paper dealing with my last work had expressed a polite hope that I would continue to do so, was a little haven in the country somewhere. I rang the bell. "Sir," said Mrs. Medley. "I'm going away for a bit," I said. "Yes, sir." "I don't know where. I'll send you the address so that you can forward letters." "Yes, sir." "And if Mr. Uckridge calls again—" At this point a thunderous knocking on the front door interrupted me. Something seemed to tell me who was at the end of that knocker. I heard Mrs. Medley's footsteps pass along the hall. There was a click of the latch. A volume of sound rushed up the stairs. "Is Mr. Garnet in? Where is he? Show me the old horse. Where is the man of wrath? Exhibit the son of Belial." There followed a violent crashing on the stairs, shaking the house. "Garnet! Where are you, laddie? Garnet! Garnet!" Stanley Featherstone Uckridge was in my midst. Chapter 2. Mr. and Mrs. S.F. Uckridge. You imagine soaking the vocal cords like in a bath or in a pot. Well, sometimes that would be helpful, I think, yeah. I've often thought that Who's Who, though a bulky and well meaning volume, omits too many of England's greatest men. It is not comprehensive enough. I am in it, nestling among the G's. Garnet, Journey, O.S., or eldest son, or oldest son, of late Henry Garnet, vicar of Much Middleford, Salop. Author, publications, The Outsider, The Manoeuvres of Arthur. Hobbies, cricket, football, swimming, golf, clubs, arts. But if you search among the U's for Uckridge, Stanley Featherstone, details of whose tempestuous career would make him really interesting reading, find no mention of him. It seems unfair, though I imagine Uckridge bears it with fortitude. That much-enduring man has had a lifetime's training in bearing things with fortitude. He seemed in his customary jovial spirits now, as he dashed into the room, clinging onto the pince-nez. Pince-nez? I'm assuming I'm pronouncing that correctly. It's not a word I often hear pronounced, which even ginger beer wire rarely kept stable for 2 minutes together. "My dear old man," he shouted, springing at me and seizing my hand in the grip like the bite of a horse. "How are you, old buck? This is good. By Jove, this is fine. What?" He dashed to the door and looked out. "Come on, Millie, pick up the walkies. Here's old Garnet. Looking just the same as ever. Devilish handsome fellow. You'll be glad you came when you see him. Beats the zoo hollow." There appeared round the corner of Uckridge a young woman. She paused in the doorway and smiled pleasantly. "Garny, old horse," said Uckridge with some pride. "This is her, the pride of the home, companion of joys and sorrows and all the rest of it. In fact," in burst of confidence, "my wife." I bowed awkwardly. "Oh, yeah, speaking as someone who's been bitten by a horse. Oh, I'm so sorry. That I've been stepped on by horses, but not bitten so much. I'm so sorry. I hope you're well. Hopefully it was a long time ago, and you've long since recovered. Let's see. I bowed awkwardly. The idea of Uckridge married was something too overpowering to be readily assimilated. "Buck up, old horse," said Uckridge encouragingly. He had the painful habit of addressing all and sundry by that title. In the schoolmaster days, at one period of his vivid career, he and I had been colleagues on the staff of a private school. He had made use of it in interviewing the parents of the new pupils. And the latter had gone away, as a rule, with the feeling that this must be either the easy manner of genius or due to alcohol, and hoping for the best. He also used it to perfect strangers in the street, and on one occasion had been heard to address a bishop by that title, rendering that dignitary, as Mr. Babu Jabberjee would put it, I have no idea who that is, sotto voce with gratification. "Surprised to find me married? What? Garny, old boy," sinking his voice to a whisper, almost inaudible on the other side of the street. "Take my tip. Go and jump off the dock yourself. You'll feel another man. Give up this bachelor business. It's a mug's game. I look on you bachelors as excrescences on the social system. I regard you, old man, purely and simply as a wart. Go and get married, laddie. Go and get married. By gad, I've forgotten to pay the cabby. Lend me a couple of bob, Garny, old chap." He was out the door and on his way downstairs before the echoes of his last remark had ceased to shake the window. I was left to entertain Mrs. Uckridge. You know what just occurred to me? I might. Ooh, Sammy demands food. Excellent. I might be able to add in a window capture for the book. Whoop. Okay, that's a little bit big. Oop. And that's that's very, very big. Okay. But, ooh, hello. Sorry. Small digression here. And haha. Bring you to front. Go to front. Nope, nope, nope. Go to front. Order. Move to top. There we go. Is that any better? Because that way you can actually see kind of the. Ooh. Okay, I don't. I somehow don't. I kind of feel like my people can hear me, and I really seriously doubt that I'm on the front page. Um, it's good, Shard. Them and oh, okay, okay, that's fine. I but yeah, I either okay. Well, if you insist, then that would just be hilarious because my stream with the most technical difficulties would be the time that that happens. Thank you. But okay. Well, we welcome. We are reading Love Among the Chickens, which was I obtained from the Gutenberg Library, and let's see. And I've completely forgotten where I am. I my proper cameras are not working, so I apologize for the video quality. Let's see. We are where were we? But now at least, hopefully, you should be able to see the text as well. Let's see. Oh yes. Uh, Uckridge had just relieved us of a couple of bob to pay the cabbie. He was out of the door and on his way downstairs before the echoes of his last remark had ceased to shake the window. I was left to entertain Mrs. Uckridge. So far, her share in the conversation had been confined to the pleasant smile, which was apparently her chief form of expression. Nobody talked very much when Uckridge was present. She sat on the edge of an armchair, looking very small and quiet. I was conscious of feeling a benevolent pity for her. If I had been a girl, I would have preferred to marry a volcano. A little Uckridge, as his former headmaster had once said in a moody, reflective voice, went a very long way. You and Stanley have known each other a long time, haven't you? Said the object of my commiseration, breaking the silence. Oh, yes, yes. Several years. We were masters at the same school. Mrs. Uckridge leaned forward with round, shining eyes. Oh, I'm screwing up my voices. Yes, yes. The yes, oh yes, several years is our protagonist. Sorry. Really? Oh, how nice, she said ecstatically. Not yet, to judge from her expression and the tone of her voice, had she found any disadvantages attached to the arduous position of being Mrs. Stanley Uckridge. He's a wonderfully versatile man, I said. I believe he could do anything. Well, you'd have a jolly good try. Have you ever kept fowls? Asked Mrs. Uckridge, with apparent irrelevance. I had not. She looked disappointed. I was hoping you might have had some experience. Stanley, of course, can turn his hand to anything, but I think experience is rather a good thing, don't you? Yes, but I have bought a shilling book called Fowls and All About Them, and this week's copy of CAC. CAC? It's chiefly about chickens. It's a paper, you know, but it's all rather hard to understand. You see, but here, Stanley, you'll explain the whole thing. Well, gone, you old horse, said Uckridge, re-entering the room after another energetic passage of the stairs. Years since I saw you. Still buzzing along? Still, so to speak, buzzing, I assented. Welcome back, Lupa. Uh, I was reading. I was reading your book the other day. Yes, I said, gratified. How did you like it? Well, as a matter of fact, laddie, I didn't get beyond the third page, because the scurvy knave at the bookstall said he wasn't running a free library, and in one way or another, there was a certain amount of unpleasantness. Still, it seemed bright and interesting up to page 3. But let's settle down and talk business. I've got a scheme for you. Garny, old man. Yes, sir. The idea of 1,000 years. Now, listen to me for a moment. Let me get a word in edgewise. He sat down on the table and dragged up a chair as a leg rest. Then he took off his pince-nez, wiped them, readjusted the ginger beer wire behind his ears, and, having hit a brown patch on the knee of his grey flannel trousers several times, in the apparent hope of removing it, resumed. About fowls. The subject was beginning to interest me. It showed a curious tendency to creep into the conversation of the Uckridge family. I want you to give me your undivided attention for a moment. I was saying to my wife as we came here, Garnet's the man. Clever devil, Garnet. Full of ideas. Didn't I, Millie? Yes, dear. Laddie, said Uckridge impressively, we are going to keep fowls. He shifted himself farther onto the table and upset the ink pot. Never mind, he said. It'll soak in. It's good for the texture. Or am I thinking of tobacco ash on the carpet? Well, never mind. Listen to me. What I said was that when I said that we were going to keep fowls, I don't mean in a small, piffling sort of way. 2 cocks and a couple of hens and a golf ball for a nest egg. We are going to do it on a large scale. We are going to run a chicken farm. A chicken farm, echoed Mrs. Uckridge in an affectionate and admiring glance at her husband. Ah, I said, feeling my responsibilities as chorus. A chicken farm. Thought it all over, laddie. It was clear as mud. No expenses, large profits, quick returns. Chickens, eggs, and the money streaming in faster than you can bank it. Winter and summer underclothing, my bonny boy, lined with crackling bradberries. It's the idea of a lifetime. Now, listen to me for a moment. You get your hen, one hen, call it one for the sake of argument. Makes my calculations clearer. Very well then. Harriet the hen. You get her. Do you follow me so far? Yes, you get a hen. I told you Garnet was a dashed bright fellow, said Uckridge approvingly to his attentive wife. Notice the way he keeps right after one's ideas, like a bloodhound. Well, where was I? You just got a hen. Exactly, the hen. Priscilla the pullet. Well, it lays an egg every day of the week. You sell the eggs, 6 for half a crown. Keep the hen costs nothing. Profit, at least a couple of bob on every dozen eggs. What do you think of that? I think I'd like to overhaul the figures in case of error. Error? Shouted Uckridge, pounding the table till it groaned. Error? Not a bit of it. Can't you follow a simple calculation like that? Oh, I forgot to say that you get, and here is the nub of the thing, you get your first hen on tick. Anybody will be glad to let you have the hen on tick. Well then, you let this hen, the first, original hen, this on-tick hen, you let it set and hatch chickens. Now, follow me closely. Suppose you have a dozen hens. Very well then. When each of the dozen has a dozen chickens, you send the old hens back to the chappies you borrowed them from, with thanks for the kind loan, and there you are, starting business with 144 free chickens to your name. And after a bit, when the chickens grow up and begin to lay, all you have to do is to sit back in your chair and endorse the big checks. Isn't that so, Millie? Yes, dear. We fixed it all up. Do you know Coombe Regis in Dorsetshire? On the border of Devon, Bathing, Sea. Splendid scenery. Just the place for a chicken farm. Friend of Millie's, a girl she knew at school, has lent us a topping old house, large grounds. All we've got to do is get in the fowls. I've ordered the first lot. We shall find them waiting for us when we arrive. Well, I said, I'm sure I wish you luck. Mind you let me know how you get on. Let you know? Roared Uckridge. Why, my dear old horse, you're coming with us. Am I? I said blankly. Certainly you are. We shall take no refusal, will we, Millie? No, dear. Of course not. No refusal of any sort. Pack up tonight and meet us at Waterloo tomorrow. It's awfully good of you, and not a bit of it. This is pure business. I was saying to Millie as we came along that you were the very man for us. A man with your flow of ideas will be invaluable on a chicken farm. Absolutely invaluable. You see, proceeded Uckridge, I'm one of those practical fellows, the hard-headed type. I go straight ahead, following my nose. What you want in a business of this sort is a touch of the dreamer to help out with the practical mind. We look to you for suggestions, laddie. Flashes of inspiration and all that sort of thing. Of course, you take your share of the profits. That's understood. Yes, I must insist. Strict business between friends. Now, taking it that, as a conservative estimate, the net profits for the first fiscal year amount to 5,000? No, better be on the safe side, say £4,500. Millie will look after that. I'm sorry, but we'll arrange all of that when we get down there. Millie will look after that. She's the secretary of the concern. She's been writing letters to people asking for hens. So, you see, it's a thoroughly organised business. How many hen letters did you write last week, old girl? 10, dear. Uckridge turned triumphantly to me. You see? You hear? 10 letters asking for hens. That's the way to succeed. Push and enterprise. And, let's see. 6 of them haven't answered, Stanley dear, and the rest refused. Immaterial, said Uckridge with a grand gesture. That doesn't matter. The point is that the letters were written. It shows we are solid and practical. Well now, can you get your things ready by tomorrow, Garney, old horse? Strange how one reaches an epoch-making moment in one's life without recognizing it. If I'd refused that invitation, I would not have, well, at any rate, I would have missed a remarkable experience. It is not given to everyone to see Stanley Featherstone or Uckridge manage a chicken farm. I was thinking of going somewhere where I could get in some golf, I said undecidedly. Cambridge is just the place for you then. Perfect hotbed of golf, full of the finest players. Can't throw a brick without hitting an amateur champion. Grand links at the top of the hill, not half a mile from the farm. Bring your clubs. You'll be able to play in the afternoons. Got to get through serious work by lunchtime. Yes, Tilly, thank you. I said, I am absolutely... yeah, Tilly's added punctuation, yes. I'm absolutely inexperienced as regards fowls. I just know enough to help myself to bread sauce when I see one, but no more. Excellent! You're just the man. You will bring to the work a mind unclouded by theories. You will act solely by the light of pure intelligence, and you've got lots of that. That novel of yours showed the most extraordinary brilliance, at least as far as that blighter in the bookstall would let me read. I wouldn't have a professional chicken farmer about the place if he paid me to come. If he applied to me, I should simply send him away. Natural intelligence is what we want. Then we can rely on you? Very well, I said slowly. It's very kind of you to ask me. Business, laddie. Pure business. Very well, then. We shall catch the 11:20 at Waterloo. Don't miss it. Look out for me on the platform. If I see you first, I'll shout. And we are now about to start Chapter 3. Okay, good. We've only been going for an hour, including technical difficulties. Yay. Chapter 3. Waterloo Station, some fellow travellers, and a girl with brown hair. The austerity of Waterloo Station was lightened on the following morning at 10 minutes to 11, when I arrived to catch the train to Combe Regis, by several gleams of sunshine and a great deal of bustle and activity on the various platforms. The porter took my suitcase and golf clubs and arranged for an assignation on number 6 platform. I bought my ticket and made my way to the bookstall, where, in the interests of trade, I inquired in a loud and penetrating voice if they had got Jeremy Garnett's Manoeuvres of Author. Being informed that they had not, I clicked my tongue reproachfully, advised them to order in a supply, as the demand was likely to be large, and spent a couple of shillings on a magazine and some weekly papers. Then, with 10 minutes to spare, went off in search of Uckridge. Yeah, okay, good. I'm glad that putting up the text is helpful. I find it kind of helpful when people do that too. I just was too discombobulated to think of that earlier, so thank you for bearing with me. Let's see. I found him on platform 6. The 11:20 was already alongside, and presently I observed my porter cleaving a path toward me with a suitcase and golf bag. "Here you are!" shouted Uckridge vigorously. "Good for you! Thought you were going to miss it!" I shook hands with the smiling Mrs. Uckridge. Let's see. "I've got a carriage and collared 2 corner seats. Millie goes down in another. She doesn't like the smell of smoke when she's travelling. Hope we get the carriage to ourselves. Devil of a lot of people here this morning. Still, the more people there are in the world, the more eggs we shall sell. I can see with half an eye that all these blighters are confirmed egg eaters. Get in, Sonny. I'll just see the missus into her carriage. Come back to you." I entered the compartment and stood at the door looking out in the faint hope of thwarting an invasion of fellow travellers. Then I withdrew my head suddenly and sat down. An elderly gentleman, accompanied by a pretty girl, was coming toward me. It was not this type of fellow traveller whom I'd hoped to keep out. I noticed the girl in the booking office. She had waited by the side of the queue while the elderly gentleman struggled gamely for the tickets, and I had plenty of opportunity of observing her appearance. I debated with myself whether her hair should rightly be described as brown or golden. I finally decided on brown. Only once I had met her eyes, and then only for an instant. They might be blue, might be grey. I could not be certain. Life is full of these problems. "This seems to be tolerably empty, my dear Phyllis," said the elderly gentleman, coming to the door of the compartment and looking in. "You're sure you don't object to a smoking carriage?" "Oh, no, father, not a bit." "Then I think," said the elderly gentleman, getting in. The inflection of his voice suggested the Irishman. "I am not doing an Irish accent. Nobody needs to hear me do that. That's just a bad, bad, bad idea. Just... no, I'm not doing that. No, I'm sorry. I mean, Irish accents are beautiful, but I can't do them. Let's see. It was not a brogue. There were no strange words. Okay, yeah, sorry. Period typical obnoxiousness. But the general effect was Irish. That's good," he said, settling himself and pulling out a cigar case. The bustle of the platform had increased momentarily, until now, when, from the snorting of the engine, it seemed likely that the train might start at any minute. The crowd's excitement was extreme. Shrill cries echoed down the platform. Lost sheep, singly and in companies, rushed to and fro, peering eagerly into carriages in search of seats. Piercing voices ordered unknown Tommies and Ernies to keep by Auntie now. Just as Uckridge returned, that sauve-qui-peu, I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that correctly, of the railway crowd, the dreaded "get in anywhere" began to be heard, and the next moment an avalanche of warm humanity poured into the carriage. The newcomers consisted of a middle-aged lady, dressed as Auntie, very stout and clad in a grey alpaca dress, skin tight, a youth called Albert, not it was to appear a sunny child, a niece of some 20 years, stolid and seemingly without interest in life, and 1 or 2 other camp followers and retainers. I'm pushing it enough with my own unknown accent, so yeah, we're not even going to try doing an accent in a humor piece. Yeah, potentially very bad. Uckridge slipped into his corner, adroitly foiling Albert, who had made a dive in that direction. Albert regarded him fixedly and reproachfully for a space, then sank into the seat beside him and began to chew something that smelt of aniseed. Auntie, meanwhile, was hydration. 1 moment. Auntie, meanwhile, was distributing her substantial weight evenly between the feet of the Irish gentleman and those of his daughter, as she leaned out of the window to converse with a lady friend with straw hat and hair curlers, accompanied by 3 dirty and frivolous boys. It was, she stated, lucky that she had caught the train. I could not agree with her. The girl with the brown hair and the eyes that were neither blue nor grey was bearing the infliction, I noticed, with angelic calm. She even smiled. This was when the train suddenly moved off with a jerk, and Auntie, staggering back, sat down on the bag of food which Albert had placed on the seat beside him. "Clumsy," observed Albert tersely. "Albert, you mustn't speak to Auntie so." "What do you want to sit on my bag for, then?" said Albert disagreeably. They argued the point. Argument in no wise interfered with Albert's power of mastication. The odor of aniseed became more and more painful. Uckridge had lighted a cigar, and I understood why Mrs. Uckridge preferred to travel in another compartment, for in his hand he bore the brand which none but he might smoke. I looked across the carriage stealthily to see how the girl was enduring this combination of evils, and noticed that she had begun to read. She put the book down to look out of the window. I saw the thrill that trickled like warm water down my spine, that her book was The Manoeuvres of Arthur. I gasped that a girl should look as pretty as that, and at the same time have the rare intelligence to read me. Yeah, you're not like other girls. Okay, well, it seemed an almost superhuman combination of the excellencies. And more devoutly than ever, I cursed in my heart these intrusive outsiders who had charged in at the last moment and destroyed forever my chance of making this wonderful girl's acquaintance. But for them, we might have become intimate in the first half hour. As it was, what were we? Ships that pass in the night. She would get out at some beastly wayside station and vanish from my life without my ever having spoken to her. Auntie, meanwhile, was having retired badly worsted from her encounter with Albert, who showed a skill in word skill, but I'm not going logomachy. I'm not sure exactly how to pronounce that. I know how to parse it, but that marked him out as a future Labour member. Was consoling herself with meat sandwiches. The niece was demolishing sausage rolls. The atmosphere of the carriage was charged with a blend of odors, topping all Uckridge's cigar, now in full blast. The train raced on toward the sea. It was a warm day, and a torpid peace began to settle down upon the carriage. Uckridge had thrown away the stump of his cigar and was now leaning back, with his mouth open and his eyes shut. I'm going to attempt to pronounce this enough. That word there. Yes. Auntie, still clutching a much bitten section of a beef sandwich, was breathing heavily and swaying from side to side. Albert and the niece were dozing, Albert's jaws working automatically, even in sleep. "What's your book, my dear?" asked the Irishman. "The Manoeuvres of Arthur, Father, by Jeremy Garnett." I would not have believed without the evidence of my ears that my name could possibly have sounded so musical. Molly McEachern? I'm going to pronounce that Molly McEachern. Molly McEachern gave it to me when I left the Abbey. She keeps a shelf of books for her guests when they are going away. Books she considers rubbish and doesn't want to know. I hated Miss McEachern without further evidence. And what do you think of it? I like it, said the girl decidedly. The carriage swam before my eyes. I think it is very clever. What did it matter after that the ass in charge of the Waterloo bookstall, had never heard of the manoeuvres of Arthur, and that my publishers, whenever I slunk in to ask how it was selling, looked at me with a sort of grave, paternal pity, and said that it had not really begun to move. Anybody can write one of the rotten, popular novels which appeal to the unthinking public, but it takes a man of intellect and refinement and taste and all that sort of thing to turn out something that will be approved of by a girl like this. I wonder who Jeremy Garnett is, she said. I've never heard of him before. I imagine him rather an old man, probably with an eyeglass, and conceited. And I should think he didn't know many girls. At least if he thinks Pamela an ordinary sort of girl, she's a creature, said Phyllis emphatically. This was a blow to me. I'd always looked on Pamela as a well-drawn character, and a very attractive, kittenish little thing at that. That scene between her and the curate in the conservatory, and when she talks to Arthur at the meet in the Blankshires, I was sorry she did not like Pamela. Somehow it lowered Pamela in my estimation. But I like Arthur, said the girl. This was better. A good chap, Arthur. Very complete and thoughtful study of myself. Of course he's a self-insert, of course. If she liked Arthur, why, then it followed. Well, what was the use? I should never get a chance of speaking to her. We were divided by a great gulf of aunties and Alberts and meat sandwiches. The train was beginning to slow down. Signs of returning animation began to be noticeable in the sleepers. Auntie's eyes opened, stared vacantly round, closed and reopened. The niece woke and started instantly to attack a sausage roll. Albert and Uckridge slumbered on. A whistle from the engine, and the train drew up to a station. Looking out, I saw that it was Yeovil. There was a general exodus. Auntie became instantly a thing of dash and electricity, collected parcels, shook Albert, replied to his thrusts with repartee, and finally heading a stampede out of the door. The Irishman and his daughter also rose and got out. I watched them leave stoically. It would have been too much to expect that they should be going any further. Where are we? Asked Uckridge sleepily. Yeovil? Not far now. Tell you what it is, old horse. I could do with a drink. With that remark, he closed his eyes again and returned to his slumbers. And as he did so, my eye, roving discontentedly over the carriage, was caught by something lying in the far corner. It was the manoeuvres of Arthur. The girl had left it behind. I suppose what follows shows the vanity that obsesses young authors. It did not even present itself to me as a tenable theory that the book might have been left behind on purpose, as being no further use to the owner. It only occurred to me that, if I did not act swiftly, that the poor girl would suffer a loss beside which the loss of a purse or vanity case were trivial. 5 seconds later, I was on the platform. "Excuse me," I said. "Oh, thank you so much," said the girl. I made my way back to the carriage and lit my pipe in a glow of emotion. "They are blue," I said to my immortal soul. "A wonderful, deep, soft, heavenly blue, like the sea at noonday." Chapter 4. The Arrival. From Axminster to Combe Regis, the line runs through the country as attractive as any that can be found in the island, and the train, as if in appreciation of this fact, does not hurry over the journey. It was late afternoon by the time we reached our destination. The arrangements for the carrying of luggage at Cumby just border on the primitive. Boxes are left on the platform, and later, when he thinks of it, a carrier looks in and conveys them to the valley and up the hill on the opposite side to the address written on the labels. The owner walks. Combe Regis is not a place for the halt and maimed. Uckridge led us in the direction of a farm, which lay across the valley, looking through woods to the sea. The place was visible from the station, which, indeed, standing as it did on the top of the hill, the view was extensive, from which I think I might have just said which. Halfway up the slope on the other side of the valley, we left the road and made our way across a spongy field, Uckridge explaining that this was a shortcut. I climbed through a hedge, crossed a stream and another field, and after negotiating a difficult bank topped with barbed wire, found ourselves in a garden. Uckridge mopped his forehead and restored his pince-nez to their original position from which the passage of the barbed wire had dislodged them. "This is the place," he said. "We've come by the back way. Saves time. Tired, Millie?" "A little, dear. I should like some tea." "Same here," I agreed. "That'll be all right," said Uckridge. "Most competent man of the name of Beale and his wife are in charge at present. I wrote them telling them that we were coming today. They'll be ready for us. That's the way to do things, Garney, old horse. Quiet efficiency. Perfect organization." We were at the front door by this time. Uckridge rang the bell. The noise echoed through the house, but there was no answering footsteps. He rang again. There was no mistaking the note of a bell in an empty house. It was plain that the competent man and his wife were out. "Now what?" he said. Mrs. Uckridge looked at her husband with calm confidence. "Okay, this," said Uckridge, leaning against the door and endeavouring to button his collar at the back, "reminds me of an afternoon in the Argentine. 2 other cheery sportsmen and myself tried for 3/4 of an hour to get into an empty house, where there looked as if there might be something to drink, and we just got the door open when the owner turned up from behind a tree with a shotgun. It was a little difficult to explain. As a matter of fact, we never did what you might call really thresh the matter out thoroughly in all its aspects, and you'd be surprised what a devil of a time it takes to pick buckshot out of a fellow. There was a dog too." He broke off, musing dreamily on the happy past, and at this moment my history partially repeated itself. From the other side of the door came a dissatisfied whine, followed by a short bark. "Hello," said Uckridge. "Beale has a dog." He frowned, annoyed. "What right," he added in an aggrieved tone, "has a beastly mongrel belonging to a man I employ to keep me out of my own house? It's a little hard. Here I am, slaving day and night to support Beale, and when I try to get into my own house, his infernal dog barks at me. Upon my Sam, it's hard." He brooded for a moment on the injustice of things. "Here, let me get to the keyhole. I'll reason with the brute." He put his mouth to the keyhole and roared, "Good dog!" through it. Instantly the door shook as some heavy object hurled itself against it. The barking rang through the house. Come round to the back," said Uckridge, giving up the idea of conciliation. "We'll get into the kitchen window." The kitchen window proved to be insecurely latched. Uckridge threw it open, and we climbed in. The dog, hearing the noise, raced back along the passage and flung himself at the door, scratching at the panels. Uckridge listened with growing indignation. "Millie, you know how to light a fire. Garnet and I will be collecting cups and things. When that scoundrel Beale arrives, I shall tear him limb from limb, deserting us like this. The man must be a thorough fraud. He told me he was an old soldier. If that's the sort of discipline they used to keep in his regiment, thank God we've got a navy. Damn, I've broken the plate. How's the fire getting on, Millie? I've chopped Beale into little bits. What's that you've got there, Connie, old horse? Tea? Good. Where's the bread? There goes another plate. Where's Mrs. Beale? Mrs. Beale, too. By Jove, that woman wants killing as much as a blackguard of a husband. Ever heard of a cook deliberately leaving her post on the day when her master and mistress were expected back? The abandoned woman. Look here, I'll give that dog 3 minutes, and if it doesn't stop scratching that door by then, I'll take a rolling pin and go out and have a heart-to-heart talk with it. It seems a little hard. My own house, and the first thing I find when I arrive is somebody else's beastly dog scratching holes in the doors and ruining expensive paint. Stop it, you brute! Dog's reply was to continue his operations with immense vigor. Uckridge's eyes gleamed behind their glasses. Give me a good large jug, laddie, he said with ominous calm. He took the largest of the jugs from the dresser and strode with it into the scullery, whence came the sound of running water. He returned carrying the jug in both hands, his mien that of a general who sees his way to a masterstroke of strategy. "Gunny, old horse," he said, "freeze onto the handle of the door, and when I give the word, fling wide the gates, and watch that animal get the surprise of a lifetime." I attached myself to the handle as directed. Uckridge gave the word. We had a momentary vision, an excited dog of the Mongol class, framed in the open doorway, all eyes and teeth. Then the passage was occupied by a spreading pool. An indignant box from the distance told that the enemy was thinking the thing over in some safe retreat. "Settled his hash," said Uckridge complacently. Nothing like resource, Garney, my boy. Some men would have gone on letting a good door be ruined, and spoiled the dog for a ha'porth of water, I said. At this moment, Mrs. Uckridge announced that the kettle was boiling. Over a cup of tea, Uckridge became the man of business. "I wonder when those fowls are going to arrive. They should have been here today. It's a little hard. Here I am, all eagerness and anxiety, waiting to start an up-to-date chicken farm, and no fowls. I can't run a chicken farm without fowls. If they don't come tomorrow, I shall get after those people with a hatchet. There must be no slackness. I must bustle about. After tea, I'll show you the garden, and we'll choose a place for the fowl run. Tomorrow we must buckle to. Serious work will begin immediately after breakfast." "Suppose," I said, "that the fowls arrive before we're ready for them." "Well, then they must wait." "But you can't keep fowls cooped up indefinitely in a crate." "Oh, that'll be all right. There's a basement to this house. We'll let them run about there until we're ready for them. There's always a way of doing things if we look for it. Organization, my boy. That's the watchword. Quiet efficiency." "I hope you're going to let the hens hatch some of the eggs, dear," said Mrs. Uckridge. "I should love to have some little chickens." "Of course, by all means. My idea," said Uckridge, "was this. These people will send us 50 fowls of sorts. That means, call it 45 eggs a day. Let 'em... Well, I'm hanged. There's that dog again. Where's the jug?" But this time an unfortunate interruption prevented the maneuver being the success it had been before. I turned the handle and was about to pull the door open, while Uckridge, looking like some modern and dilapidated version of the discombobulous, stood beside me with his jug poised, when a voice spoke from the window. "Stand still," said the voice, "or I'll corpse you." I dropped the handle. Uckridge dropped the jug. Mrs. Uckridge dropped her teacup. At the window, with a double-barreled gun in his hands, stood a short, square, red-headed man. The muzzle of his gun, which rested on the sill, was pointing in a straight line at the third button of my waistcoat. Uckridge emitted a roar like that of a hungry lion. "Beale, you scoundrelly, unprincipled demon! What the devil are you doing with that gun? Why were you out? What have you been doing? Why did you shout like that? Look what you've made me do." He pointed to the floor. Very old pair of tennis shoes which he wore were by this time generously soaked with spilled water. Law, Mr. Uckridge, sir, is that you? Said the red-headed man calmly. I thought you was burglars. A short bark from the other side of the kitchen door, followed by a renewal of the scratching, drew Mr. Beale's attention to his faithful hound. That's Bob, he said. I don't know what you call the brute, said Uckridge. Come in and tie him up. Mind what you're doing with that gun. After you've finished with the dog, I would like a brief chat with you, laddie, if you can spare the time and have no other engagements. Mr. Beale, having very carefully deposited the gun against the wall and dropped a pair of very limp rabbits on the floor, proceeded to climb in through the window. This operation concluded, he stood on one side while the besieged garrison passed out by the same route. You will find me in the garden, said Uckridge coldly. I've one or two little things to say to you. Mr. Beale grinned affably. He seemed to be a man of equable temperament. The cool air of the garden was grateful after the warmth of the kitchen. It was a pretty garden, or would have been if it had not been so neglected. I seemed to see myself sitting in a deck chair on the lawn, smoking and looking through the trees and the harbour below. It was a spot, I felt, in which it would be an easy and pleasant task to shape the plot of my novel. I was glad I had come. About now, outside my lodgings in town, a particularly foul barrel organ would be settling down to work. There you are, Beale, said Uckridge, as the servitor appeared. Now then, what have you to say? The hired man looked thoughtful for a moment, then said that it was a fine evening. Fine evening? Shouted Uckridge. What on earth has that got to do with it? I want to know why you and Mrs. Beale were out when we arrived. Mrs. went to Axminster, Mr. Uckridge, sir. She had no right to go to Axminster. It isn't part of her duties to go gadding about to Axminster. I don't pay her enormous sums to go to Axminster. You knew I was coming this evening. No, sir. What? No, sir. Beale, said Uckridge, with studied calm, strong man repressing himself. One of us two is a fool. Yes, sir. Let us sift this matter to the bottom. You got my letter? No, sir. My letter saying that I should arrive today. You didn't get it? No, sir. Well, now, look here, Bill. This is absurd. I am certain that letter was posted. I remember placing it in my pocket for that purpose. It is not there now. See? These are all the contents of my... Well, I'm hanged. He stood looking at the envelope, which he had produced from his breast pocket. A soft smile played over Mr. Beale's wooden face. He coughed. Beale, said Uckridge, you... there seems to have been a mistake. Yes, sir. You were not so much to blame as I thought. No, sir. There was a silence. Anyhow, said Uckridge in inspired tones, I'll go and slay that infernal dog. I'll teach him to tear my door to pieces. Where's your gun, Beale? But better counsels prevailed, and the proceedings closed with a cold but pleasant little dinner, at which the spared mongrel came out unexpectedly strong, with ingenious and diverting tricks. Okay, where are we? I think I would like to do about one more chapter, if that's okay with everybody. It's been about an hour and a half, counting the technical kerfuffles. So, okay with everyone to wrap up with chapter 5? Cool. Well, I just waited until just Lupa responded, but excellent. And Shard, and hopefully Magpie, you're okay with that too. So, but thank you for hanging around, and thank you for reminding me too that I had wanted to do some reading. I'm not great at the voices, but it's fun. I love Wodehouse anyway. Okay, so chapter 5, Buckling to. Sunshine, streaming into my bedroom through the open window, woke me next day as distant clocks were striking 8. It was a lovely morning, cool and fresh. The grass of the lawn, wet with dew, sparkled in the sun. A thrush, who knew all about early birds and their perquisites, was filling in the time before the arrival of the worm with a song or two as he sat in the bushes. In the ivy, a colony of sparrows were opening day with a brisk scuffling. On the gravel in front of the house lay the mongrel Bob, blinking lazily. The gleam of the sea through the trees turned my thoughts to bathing. I dressed quickly and went out. Bob rose to meet me, waving an absurdly long tail. The hatchet was definitely buried now. That little matter of the jug of water was forgotten. A walk of 5 minutes down the hill brought me, accompanied by Bob, to the sleepy little town. I passed through the narrow street and turned onto the beach, walking in the direction of the combination of pier and breakwater which loomed up through the faint mist. The tide was high, and, leaving my clothes to the care of Bob, who treated them as a handy bed, I dived into 12 feet of clear, cold water. As I swam, I compared it with the morning tub of London, and felt that I had done well to come with Uckridge to this pleasant spot. Not that I could rely on unbroken calm during the whole of my visit. I knew nothing of chicken farming, but I was certain that Uckridge knew less. There would be some strenuous moments before that farm became a profitable commercial speculation. At the thought of Uckridge toiling on a hot afternoon to manage an undisciplined mob of fowls, I laughed and swallowed a generous mouthful of salt water, and, turning, swam back to Bob and my clothes. On my return, I found Uckridge, in his shirt sleeves and minus a collar, assailing a large ham. Mrs. Uckridge, looking younger and more childlike than ever in brown Holland, smiled at me over the teapot. "Hullo, old horse," bellowed Uckridge. "Where have you been? Bathing? Hope it's made you feel fit for work, because we've got to buckle to this morning." The fowls have arrived, Mr. Garnett," said Mrs. Uckridge, opening her eyes till she looked like an astonished kitten. "Such a lot of them, making such a noise." To support her statement, there floated into the window, cackling which for volume and variety beat anything I'd ever heard. Judging from the noise, it seemed as if England had been drained of fowls and the entire tribe of them dumped into the yard of Uckridge's farm. "There seems to have been no stint," I said. Quite a goodish few, aren't there?" said Uckridge complacently. "But that's what we want. No good starting on a small scale. The more you have, the bigger the profits." Okay. So what sorts have you got mostly?" I asked, showing a professional interest. "Oh, all sorts. My theory, laddie, is this. Doesn't matter a bit what kind we get, because they'll all lay, and if we sell settings of eggs, which we will, we'll merely say it's an unfortunate accident if they turn out mixed when hatched. Bless you, people don't mind what breed a fowl is, as long as it's got 2 legs and a beak. These dealer chaps are so infernally particular. Any Dorkings, they say. All right, I said, bring on your Dorkings. Perhaps you will require a few Minorcas. Very well, I said, unleash the Minorcas. They were going on. They'd have gone on for hours, but I stopped them. Look here, my dear old college chum, I said, kindly but firmly to the manager, Tony. Decent old buck, with the manners of a marquess. Look here, I said, life is short, and we're neither of us as young as we used to be. Don't let us waste the golden hours playing guessing games. I want fowls. You sell fowls. So give me some of all sorts. Mix 'em up, laddie, I said. Mix 'em up. And he has, by Jove. You go into the yard and look at them. Beale has turned them out of their crates. There must be one of every breed ever invented. Where are you going to put them? That spot we chose by the paddock. That's the place. Plenty of mud for them to scratch about in. And they can go in the field when they like it, pick up worms or whatever they feed on. We must rig them up some sort of shanty, I suppose, this morning. We'll go and tell him to send up some wire netting and stuff from the town. Then we shall want hen coops. We shall have to make those. Oh, of course. So we shall. Millie, didn't I tell you that old Garnet was the man to think of things? I forgot the coops. Can't buy some, I suppose. On tip, of course. Cheaper to make them. Suppose we get a lot of boxes. Sugar boxes are as good as any. It won't take long to knock up a few coops. Uckridge thumped the table with enthusiasm, upsetting his cup. Garny, old horse, you're a marvel. You think of everything. We'll buckle to right away and get the whole place fixed up the same as Mother makes it. What an infernal noise those birds are making. I suppose they don't feel at home in the yard. Wait till they see the A1 compact residential mansions we're going to put up for them. Finish breakfast? Let's go out. Come along, Millie. The red-headed Beale, discovered leaning in an attitude of thought in the yard gate, and observing the feathered mob below with much interest, was roused from his reflections and dispatched to the town for the wire and sugar boxes. Uckridge, taking his place at the gate, gazed at the fowls with the affectionate air of a proprietor. Well, they certainly have taken you at your word, I said, as far as variety is concerned. The man with the manners of a marquess seemed to have been at great pains to send a really representative selection of fowls. There were blue ones, black ones, white, grey, yellow, brown, big, little, Dorkings, Norcas, Cochinchinas, Bantams, Wyandottes. I'm guessing on some of those pronunciations there. It was an imposing spectacle. Oh yes, they are. Even this early, they are classic Wodehouse characters, getting the chickens before they even decide how to make the coops. Yeah. Okay. The hired man returned toward the end of the morning, preceded by a cart containing the necessary wire and boxes, and Uckridge, whose enthusiasm brooked no delay, started immediately the task of fashioning the coops, while I, assisted by Beale, draped the wire netting about the chosen spot next to the paddock. There were little unpleasantnesses. Once a roar of anguish told that Uckridge's hammer had found the wrong billet, and on another occasion my flannel trousers suffered on the wire. But the work proceeded steadily. By the middle of the afternoon, things were in a sufficiently advanced state to suggest to Uckridge that the advisability of a halt for refreshments. That's the way to do it, he said, beaming through misty pince-nez over a long glass. That is the stuff to administer to him. At this rate, we shall have the place in corking condition before bedtime. Quiet efficiency, that's the wheeze. What do you think of those? What do you think of those for coops, Beale? The hired man examined them woodenly. Seen worse, sir. Continued his examination. Not many, he added. Beale's passion for the truth had made him unpopular in the three regiments. They aren't so bad, I said, but I'm not a fowl. So you ought to be, said Uckridge, considering the way you've put up that wire. You'll have them strangling themselves. In spite of earnest labour, the housing arrangements of the fowls were still in an incomplete state at the end of the day. The details of the evening's work are preserved in a letter which I wrote that night to my friend Lickford. Have you ever played a game called Pigs in Clover? We've just finished a merry bout of it, with hens instead of marbles, which has lasted for an hour and a half. We are all dead tired, except for the hired man, who seems to be made of India rubber. He has just gone for a walk. He has just gone for a stroll on the beach. Want some exercise, I suppose. Personally, I feel as if I should never move again. I have no conception of the difficulty of rounding up fowls and getting them safely to bed. Having no proper place to put them, we were obliged to stow some of them in the cube sugar boxes, and the rest in the basement. To Suddenly just occurred to me that they ought to have had perches to roost on. Didn't strike me before. Shan't mention it to Uckridge. Well, that indomitable man will start making some. Drag me into it too. After all, a hen can buff it for one night. And if I did a stroke more work, I should collapse. My idea was to do the thing on the slow but sure principle. That is to say, take each bird singly and carry it to bed. It would have taken some time, but there would have been no confusion. But you can imagine that sort of thing would not appeal to Stanley Featherstone. He likes his manoeuvres to be on a large, dashing, Napoleonic scale. He said, open the yard gate and let the blighters come out into the open, then sail in and drive them in mass formation through the back door to the basement. It was a great idea, but there was one fatal flaw in it. It didn't allow for the hens scattering. We opened the gate, and out they came. They all came, like an audience coming out of a theatre. Then we closed in on them to bring off the big drive. For about 30 seconds it looked as if we might do it. Then Bob, the hired man's dog, an animal who likes to be in whatever's going on, rushed out of the house into the middle of them, barking. It was a perfect stampede, and heaven only knows where some of those fowls are now. There was one in particular, a large yellow bird, which I should imagine is nearing London by this time. Last I saw of it was navigating at the rate of knots in that direction, Bob after it, barking his hardest. Fowl was showing a rare turn of speed and gaining rapidly. Presently Bob came back, panting, having evidently given the thing up. We, in the meantime, were chasing the rest of the birds all over the garden. The affair had now resolved itself into the course of action I had suggested originally, except that instead of collecting them quietly and at our leisure, we had to run miles for each one we captured. After a time, we introduced some sort of system into it. Mrs. Uckridge stood at the door, and we chased the hens and brought them in. Then, as we put each through into the basement, she shut the door on it. We also arranged Uckridge's sugar box coops in the row, and when we caught a fowl, we put it in the coop and stuck a board in front of it. By these strenuous means, we gathered in about 2/3 of the lot. The rest are all over England. Few may still be in Dorsetshire, but I should not like to bet on it. So, you see, things are being managed on the up-to-date chicken farm on good, sound Uckridge principles. It's only the beginning. I look with confidence for further interesting events. I believe if Uckridge kept white mice, he would manage to get feverish excitement out of it. He is at present lying on the sofa, smoking one of his infernal brand of cigars, drinking whiskey and soda, and complaining with some bitterness because the whiskey isn't as good as some he once tasted in Belfast. From the basement, I can faintly hear the murmur of innumerable fowls. Okay, and thus ends chapter 5. Chicken Stampede does sound like dog heaven. Yes. That is the end of chapter 5. We're hitting like an hour and 3/4 mark. So I think if it's all right with all of you, I'm going to call it there. And I've enjoyed this. Thank you for hanging out with me and listening to me stumble over my words. But I am always up for Wodehouse because absolutely ridiculous, and it makes me feel much better about my life. And thank you for reminding me too that I'd wanted to do this, because otherwise I would have just called the stream. Hopefully next time I will be more prepared with more beverages and be able to go for longer. but I think chapter 5 is a good place to end it. And let's see, we have. Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly how much. We're not too super far into the book, I think, but we've at least gotten some action. Thank you again, everyone, for hanging out with me. And oh, thank you. That's so sweet of you. I will see you all later, and if nothing else, probably at some point in someone's streams this week. I would do shout outs for people, but we all know each other, and that's kind of a little bit pointless. I don't know that anybody is actually streaming at the moment to be rated. Let's see. I might be able, maybe, to see. Neo's about to end. Okay. Well, yeah. Okay, well, then I shall not raid, but at least, hey, at least I remembered this time that raiding is possible. Raiding is a thing that I can do. Thank you so much, and take care, everyone, and see you later. Bye-bye. And where's my end screen?